Hello, and thanks for clicking on the link for this short video. Looking at work in process, tracking that, customer deposits, how to close out the job, as well as starting with an estimate, using items. These are all going to be the things that we're going to look at. What are some of the key reports? And in my scenario here is some water damage from a flood. It took about a week or 10 days to resolve. And though you wouldn't necessarily need to do a work in process, I'm just going to use this as an example, as something real that happened, so it resonates with me. And what I did in order to settle up, even before we talk about the contract or the bid, and we are going to go ahead and invoice, and you guys will see the reports, and we're also going to close out the job. So let's look at the chart of accounts first. And I've created a WIP account. It's just another current asset account. Oops, sorry about that. Edit it as a current asset account. Okay, and that's where all my two-sided items for the actual stages of work of the job or services that are being performed are going to hit. And then I'll move them over to cost of goods sold when in the same period that I reflect the revenue. Okay, so I'm sure you have jobs that could match that. Now, in order to do the closing check at the end, I have an adjustment register. This is just going to be a $0 check, and I just created a bank account for it. Right? So it's easy to find. I'm not going to write the check to anybody. Right? It's just I don't want to make sure I can find it in the register. Also, on the item list for the services, recarpeting, carpet and pad removal, flood labor, dehumidify area, even. Again, these are all two-sided items, so I check the box. Services used in assemblies or performed by a partner or subcontractor. No cost, I'll just put that on the estimate and the markup, etc., and the revenue. Hitting the WIP account, other current asset, and hitting revenue. Right? And these are things that you needed to do. One last thing to consider on the item list, go down the other charge area. I have my deposit item. I took a deposit. This is hitting other current asset, other current liability account. Also have a reverse WIP, which is hitting the WIP account. That's going to be a negative on the $0 check when I close out the job to move it to cost of goods sold, which is a cost of goods sold at closing other charge, which will be a positive amount. We'll see that. So I did write some checks to a vendor for the cost. If we go back to the estimate here real quick, I love this open window list. You can kind of toggle back and forth. So you might say, well, what's up with the bid item? This is actually a group item. Because Nicola, when she called on the job, and I'm going to give her a bid or a contract for it, I don't want her to see all this detail. Okay, so what I did is I created a group item called a bid item. And on the group item, I just have some blank lines there, and I put an end of bid item in it. But basically for the description. Total of estimate for resolving water damage. I wanted to see this line and not all the detail. So it's up to you if you want to do that, but it's just a cool, cheap trick. Click Preview. And by the way, this process I'm learning from the updated Advanced Certification Manual by Michelle Long. And you'll notice total estimate for resolving water damage from flood. Here's the amount. That's what she sees on the estimate for the invoicing. Okay. Now, I did take the upfront deposit already. Nicola, I just did it on the sales receipt, or you could do it on an invoice. Here's that deposit item, that other charge hitting other current liability. So right now I've credited that, and I debited undeposited funds. So I also ran some reports. The key reports here are WIP and customer deposits that I created from a customer summary report, job estimates for actual and job profitability detail. So I have my WIP and the customer deposit. You might say, well, where did the WIP come from? Let's drill down. And I have a bill, because on the estimate there's some floorboards. That's a non-inventory part. I'm not using inventory lot with job costing because, again, you won't see the cost until you sell it. So I used a non-inventory part, but it's also double-sided, and I went ahead and created a purchase order right from the estimate and received the items with a bill. Right? And that immediately then debited my WIP and credited AP. Right? So I got the floorboards already, and that's what they're going to use. And for these other items, again, on the check, I have, these are double-sided items I wrote to Dan Miller. Okay, so let's go in here, and here's the check for that, just for some of the cost. He did the recarpeting, he sucked out the water in the carpet pad and removal. Notice that I did assign the job for reporting, but I'm not making it billable because I'm not passing this expense through. Nicola's already agreed on the estimate contract, and she's going to pay that. Okay. So I just wanted to incur the cost in there so you have it. And notice if we hit a journal just for this, all the WIP accounts are hit and the checking account. So now I'm not hitting any expense yet at all. Now on the estimate versus actual and profitability detail, let's say, you might say, well, how did you get your cost in here? And that's because typically these look at income and expense accounts. I went to filter and removed the account filter. So it's looking at all accounts. Right? That's why it's seeing it. So let's do the deal. All right? Let's incur the cost and then we'll close out the job. I'm going to do bring up my WIP and customer deposit report. I'm going to go to banking, write checks. I am doing Control N. Note that. Not going to choose a name. I am going to choose the adjustment register bank account. It should be $0 check. No name here, and I'm going to choose items. And I want to go and do the other charge items here. The first one will be the WIP, and it's going to be a negative. Let's see here, what did I have? $28.50. Okay. So a negative $28.50. And the cost of goods sold, the other charge account hitting the closing cost of goods sold at closing, this will be the $28.50. And I'm assigning the job. Not making it billable. Again, just so it shows up there. I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay. So that's the WIP and also the customer deposit. I got to remember $300, so I got to get that back on the final invoice. So now I have my estimate versus actual, and if you look at the job profitability detail, there's my cost of goods sold at closing, and the reverse WIP should be there too. Just take the account away. Very good. Okay. So now let's go ahead and create the invoice against the estimate. I'm going to click on this and create an invoice for the entire estimate. Remember, you can do progress invoicing. In this case, I'm just going to do that. And at the bottom, I'm going to put down the deposit she had. Other charge item, deposit, and it was $300. So I got to take that into consideration. And click Save and Close. And I've closed out the job, and I've also, I have no more deposit there. And I have my profitability as well as my estimate versus actual, so I have revenue now. And I've also taken away the deposit item. And that's essentially it. So keep those things in mind. Simple example, I know, but you can apply them for all different scenarios for jobs. Hope that was helpful. You guys have a great day there.